Morning guys, so the first thing I want you to look at is technicalities. The first thing that you should always do is add a cover page. Then make sure your font is the correct type of font and the correct sizing of the font. And then also justify your alignment. It should look like a block. It should not have a zigzag format or zigzag picture. When you look at the essay, it should have a block picture, so therefore you justify your alignment. And then make your line spacing 1.5. You guys are not doing this, you are losing so many marks. The average marks that was lost for technicalities was at least 3. Many of you failed because of your technicalities and your referencing, so please ensure that you follow this. There is a YouTube video. If you don't know how to change it, look at it, use it, fix your work. When we look at referencing, the most common mistake was punctuation. So forgetting to add the full stops at the end, or not spacing correctly, not tabbing correctly. So pay attention to your punctuation. Then something else you missed was italics in the titles. The titles should be italics, and then the authors must be capitals. Okay, the authors' names must be in capitals. So if you have one mistake, one full stop mistake, it's already -1 in your referencing. So it's unnecessary to lose marks there. I'm not going to tell you how to reference because you already know this. I sent you multiple documents, or the same document on multiple times. You have the information. You have at least 3 study guides that you can look at for referencing. Then something you need to do is both in-text referencing and the reference list. You must do the reference list according to the footnote method, according to our style. You must do your in-text citation also according to the footnote method, not Harvard, meaning no brackets. And you cannot just type the type of source like you did in semester 1, because in the end of semester 1 you had a whole week of learning how to in-text reference, so you are expected to do it correctly. So a mistake that many of you made was referencing the Constitution incorrectly. So you do not have to have the Constitution within your essay, but if you look below, I showed you how to do the Constitution. I also want to add that you should copy and paste the entire URL. You can't just say www.websitename.co.za. That is not the page that you looked at. There will always be forward slashes and those type of things. What is the actual page that you were reading on? If you just copy the home page, that tells me you did not actually do the research. So make sure you copy the entire URL. And then many of you write anonymous for the author, but you forget to look at the organization name. So a lot of the websites are actually written by the company, or the author is the organization of the place. So don't just write anonymous because you don't see a name. Sometimes it's the company. Make sure that you don't know who the writer is, or the company did not write it. And by the way, if there is no author name, then it's probably a blog and it's biased information and it's an unreliable source, and you should not be using it. Okay, so when we look at the introduction, you must have background information. Most of you did include your background information, and the most common mistake then was it being too short. It should not be one sentence. It should be 3 to 5 sentences depending on your space, and you should funnel your background. So if you can please go back and look at your outline feedback, I explained how to do the background in detail. You have to start very broad and bring it in and narrow it in. Make sure you cover all the parts that are in your thesis statement and then go from there. Okay, so the best advice that I could give you is say something interesting to hook the reader's attention. Make sure you mention something about child labor, and then make sure you mention something about children's rights, because you have to focus on the right to education and the right to protection. So make sure you mention that. And then moving on from the background, you have a thesis statement. Now your thesis statement is almost phrased like a topic sentence. So you provide the main idea and you make a statement. Meaning a thesis statement cannot be a fact. It should be something that is debatable, that you can argue, okay? And you have to give your opinion. What is your stance? Where do you stand? So what do you believe, okay? But remember, don't say I. You are not speaking in first person. Then, the most common mistake in the thesis statement, guys, was not including the correct focus. Okay, so you had the main idea, which is the effects of child labor. That is your main idea. What are you focused on? Okay, your focus is on the right to education and the right to protection. Your focus is not on the society and how they react. Just go back again to the outline feedback, look at what I said, listen to what I said, and follow my information and make sure that you understand your topic brief correctly. Okay? Because you are approaching it wrong. So if I wrote on your body paragraphs or on your thesis statement, you have the incorrect main idea or you have missing information, then you have to go back to the outline feedback, go back to your lessons where you unpacked the topic prompt and make sure that you understand it correctly. Then, many of you brought in poverty, which is fine. Poverty can be used as supporting evidence, such as when you provide the evidence that child labor affects education, which in turn can lead to poverty. But you cannot go directly from child labor to poverty, because poverty is not your main idea. You are not telling me that child labor affects poverty, because that was not the focus according to the topic prompt. You cannot tell me that poverty causes child labor, because your main idea is child labor causes this, not something else leads to child labor. Okay, so don't give me the things that cause child labor, because that is, you are on the wrong main idea. Your main idea is child labor does what? How does it impact certain things? What things does it impact? It impacts the right to education and the right to protection. I'm going to stop ranting now because I already said this in your outline feedback. Go and listen to it, please. Make sure you follow your focus. Then moving on from your thesis statement, you had to have a roadmap. Those of you who did include your roadmap mostly did it correctly. So you should mention what is your main idea for paragraph 1 and what is your main idea for paragraph 2. That is your roadmap. You should not continue with background information, or you should not give me supporting sentences to already give evidence to your thesis statement because it's not a body paragraph. Only tell me what is going to be your main idea. Okay, so make sure you include your roadmap, and if you have any questions, let me know. For the body paragraph, you have to follow the structure that you learned during first semester, meaning topic sentence, a few supporting sentences, and then a concluding sentence. Giving me only 2 supporting sentences are very insufficient. It is not a complete paragraph. You cannot support and make a point in 2 sentences. It is impossible. So it should be longer. It should be at least 3. Actually more, 6, yes, 6 to 10, 6 to 8 supporting sentences. 6 to 8 supporting sentences is what you should be going for. This is where most of your word count has to be. You have to make your points, you have to support the topic sentence, so prove the main points or the main idea of that topic sentence, and then also link it to the thesis statement, meaning how does it prove the overall idea. So if your topic for paragraph 1 is the child labor affects the right to education, then you are going to support it by describing how it affects the right to education, what is the effects, how does it cause it, what happens. You can use examples, you can use facts, you can use statistics, you can use a proven analogy. Make sure you cite all of your evidence and explain them, elaborate on them, and then within your elaboration you link it back to the thesis statement by pointing out that, remember, your overall idea is child labor has an impact on these things, or what is your stance that you gave has a negative impact, for example. Then you just link it back to that point. So if you did your topic sentence correctly and you link back to your topic sentence, it will automatically link back to the thesis as well. Then make sure you include a concluding sentence. So many of you forgot your concluding sentence. Your concluding sentence is where you summarize your paragraph and paraphrase back to or refer back to your topic sentence. And very important as well is include transitions. You have to include your transitions. So common marking things that you would see is maybe vocabulary errors or digression. If I said digression, it means you are giving information that is not proving your point. So you're basically ranting off and going off topic, and it's unnecessary. If you have R for redundant or repetitive, redundant means that this is not important, you are wasting space, you could have said something more valuable in that word count space. And repetitive means that you already stated this before, you are saying the same thing over and over again in different ways. So that is repetitive. Trying to remember, yeah, I think that was the most common marking. If you please go look at the feedback video, or if you go onto YouTube and you look at the writing process video that I made last semester, and you start at 8 minutes 30 seconds, there I show you how to look at your Turnitin feedback. So make sure you look and you click on every single comment and you read every single comment, because in that commentary it explains what you did wrong, it shows you how to fix it or where to find out how to fix it, and sometimes I add extra commentary specifically to you as well. So make sure you read it. Then something also very, very important that you have to look at is if I mark something once, I'm not going to mark it again. So if I say you have the wrong verb once, meaning you wrote in the incorrect tense, or it's not singular, it's plural, something like that, and you do it again and again and again, I'm not going to mark it every time. If you use a small letter and I mark you for capitalization or punctuation, especially missing commas, if I mark it to you once, I'm not going to do it again. You have to take initiative and go look at it again. If I pick up more important things like cohesion and coherence and content related marking, I'm not going to mark it every time. You have to go back and go look throughout the rest of your essay. Did you do this over and over again? Okay, so I only mark something once. I don't have to time, or actually, never mind the time. You cannot expect to be spoon-fed. So you have to take the initiative to go through your work and see if you made the same mistake again. Another thing you should also remember is I don't indicate every little single small mistake, especially the lower order marking, which is the mechanics like punctuation and spelling, the vocabulary and the usage, your sentence structure, your word choices, those type of things. I don't pick up everything. I pick up the main things that are very popular, or the mistakes that you made the most. I pick out those, and I pick out the higher order ones because they are very important that you fix them first. So you have to go take the initiative and proofread your essay and see whether you cannot improve on it further as well. Okay. For the concluding paragraph, most of you did it correctly. So you start with your transition, like in conclusion, and then you paraphrase your thesis statement, or you basically say your thesis statement in a different way, and also in a way that shows that this is the end of your essay. Then you summarize your reasons. In other words, you summarize the evidence in your body paragraphs to just point out, okay, this is the evidence that I used to prove this point. This evidence or this information shows the proof that my thesis statement is correct. Okay, so it's basically summarizing your evidence in your body paragraphs, taking those main ideas of those body paragraphs and showing that you did prove your thesis statement. That is your summary of reasons. So of course, if you had content issues or organization issues within your body paragraphs, you will have to adapt your conclusion. If you had an incorrect thesis statement or a problem in your thesis statement in your introduction, you will have to adapt it in your conclusion as well. So make sure that you adapt your conclusion accordingly. Your summary of reason should not be your concluding paragraph. Let me put it this way. Your concluding paragraph shouldn't be too short. 2 sentences are too short, okay? It should be at least 3 or 4. You do not have to make a long sentence if you are running out of space. You can say something short and sweet. But 2 sentences is not enough because you have a thesis statement, you have 2 summary of reasons, and you have a clincher. So it's impossible to do that in 2 sentences. So make sure you include all the components of a conclusion. Make sure that you link back to your introduction and your main idea. In Lesson 7, you learned more about the concluding paragraph. So that was to add a clincher at the end of your paragraph. Meaning you only learned this after your draft, so I did not mark it in your draft. In other words, whether you did this or not, I did not mark it. Okay, so you have to go back to your concluding paragraph and make sure that you added a clincher. So many of you struggled with the clincher, so please go look at my lesson 7 feedback. I explain it a bit more there. I give some examples, but just to summarize it for you, a clincher is basically the lasting message that you leave with the reader and a way to end off and bring everything together at the end of an essay. So if you give your thesis statement again in your conclusion and say, therefore, child labor, it does affect the right to education and the right to protection negatively for children in a society. And then you summarize your reasons by saying, for example, as can be seen by the drop of attendance rates and illiteracy rates, it comes to show that child labor does have a negative impact on education. Also, when looking at the well-being and the health and the neglect children in the child labor industry has to go through, it shows that the right to protection is also negatively affected. Okay, then just stopping there, it's like hanging in the air. You were jumping off the bridge, but now you didn't jump, you caught it, so now you're just hanging, dangling there in the air. Okay, so in order to land and bring it home, you have to just end it so that it feels like the essay is done, it is completed. In the feedback of lesson 7, I gave you a web page where you can go. So there they tell you that you can use maybe a quote that fits with your work. Be careful when using a quote. Make sure that it actually fits with what you want to say. Or you can link all the summary of reasons back to the main idea again. Or you can just provide a recommendation, or you can leave a lasting thought to the reader. So there's a lot of things that you could do. So in my example, I could maybe end off with all the negative effects that was shown throughout this essay. It is clear to see that child labor is a very bad thing. Okay, so that's very informal, just off the top of my head. Please don't copy and paste me. But just an example of how you can end with a clincher. So make sure that you add a clincher to your concluding paragraph. And then in lesson 8, you learned all about hedging. So hedging is very important for you to go back and include within your content. Sometimes, not all of the time, but sometimes I indicated that you should strengthen your evidence. In other words, you made a very bold claim. So many people are going to argue with you or get mad at you, and you need to show that this was actually proven. You can't make such a statement out of the top of your head. A popular example from your draft would be saying that children in child labor will stay poor forever. Okay, that was not the exact wording, but that is what your examples were. Saying something like that, first of all, is going to make people very mad, because they were, if you look at some of the richest people in the world, they didn't even finish school or go to university. Okay, so many successful people in the world didn't even have the education, but they are extremely rich. So So saying something like that you will be argued and you will lose. You cannot say that. There was no research done to prove this. So you can't even add a citation. That's the easiest way to show that you have proof, is to add a citation. But there was no such research done. So how can you fix a sentence like that? You can say, children that are part of child labor can, what's the word? Not lean more, can tend to stay poor. Okay? So they can tend to, or may sometimes not get out of poverty. So adding a softening word to show that this is an opinion. It can happen for some people. However, it's not 100% fact. Okay, so make sure that you hedge your information, and if you want to boost something, add your citations. Show that you have evidence proving this fact. So again, I didn't mark hedging in your draft because it is new, but I will be marking it in your final. So ensure that you go through your contents and check whether you made any bold statements that could cause an argument. Okay, then lesson 9 is all about how to use your feedback. So go through that lesson, use that lesson to do your editing. Make sure you edit, and do your, before submitting your final. Okay, so your final is due by this Friday. If you have any questions, please email me. If you don't understand your feedback, email me and I will help you. It does not help if you email me Friday nights, guys. I have business hours. I have official office communicating hours, which I gave to you at the beginning of the semester, so use them. I will not go beyond those hours. I will not answer you. I will ignore you. If you have technical difficulties, you have to contact tech support, and then if they cannot help you, you can email me, but you need to email me the proof as well. Okay, so make sure that you submit your final. Try to do it by at least Thursday, so that you still have space Friday for in case something went wrong. Good luck and happy writing, and I hope you understand everything.